Alright, this screencast is the third part of 3 on dimensional analysis or converting units. And in the previous 2 we have looked at, in the first one you looked at straight up just converting one unit, canceling your units, whatever's on the top is on the bottom and they cancel. And in the second part you looked at a more complex conversion problem where you had things like miles per hour or feet per second and you were converting 2 units all in one problem. So in this part we are going to look at squares and cubes, so looking at area and volume where you have more than one dimension. When you have area, you're asked to find length times width, which is a square, and when you're doing volume, it's length times width times height, so that's a cube. But when you want to convert them, you essentially treat them the same. You just add in the fact that it is more than one unit. So to start, if you want to look at here, if we have 1 foot is 12 inches, it would still be 1 foot is 12 inches, except that now it could be 1 cubed foot cubed is 12 inches cubed, and you have to apply the cubed or the square. It ends up being 1 foot cubed is 12 times 12 times 12, or 1,728 inches cubed. So there is a factor, it does affect the numbers, but you're still using the same conversion factors. Alright, so why would you need to do this? Here's a sample problem. If you were looking at a swimming pool and you wanted to know how much water or area your pool would cover, you could do a conversion. So it's saying if you need to purchase a swimming pool cover that will fit your 10 by 12 foot pool, but the prices are listed for areas in meters squared, you'd need to just convert your dimensions of foot squared into meters squared, and then you could figure it out. So what would you need to know? Well, we need to know how to go from feet to meters, and then we need to apply the squares. So let's put this into a squared unit. So 10 foot times 12 foot gets you 120 foot squared. And we're going to change that 120 foot squared into meters squared. Alright, so if you were doing this, I've given you some sample, some conversions you might need. 1 foot is 12 inches, 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters, and you should know the number of centimeters in 1 meter, but in case you don't, it's 100. Okay, so looking at the sample problem, we have our feet squared over here. We're going to have it on the top of the problem to start with, so we'll need to put it on the bottom. So we're going to pick a conversion factor that has foot on the bottom, and we know that 1 foot is 12 inches. And what we do here is we're adding squares to both the number and the unit. So now we have 12 inches squared on the top. We're going to put inches squared on the bottom, which would lead us to using the centimeters one. So you line it up in the correct way so that your units cancel. And then you have your centimeters on the bottom of the next one, and we're going to go to meters, and you fill in the numbers. Now, when I'm doing these problems, I don't type in 12 squared and 2.54 squared and 100 squared. What I typically do is I will go through, and in my notes when I'm writing this out, above the 12 squared I'll write that it's 144. I do that already. And 2.54 squared is 6.45. And then 100 squared is roughly 10,000. So you're going to take the 120 times 144 times 6.45 divided by 10,000, and you're going to get an answer is 11.1 meters squared. Okay, so that's how you do that problem. It's the same setup as we've done before. You're just now squaring the units because we have an area, so we have foot squared. You do the whole process the same, you just cube it or square it, and do this for both the conversion factor and all the numbers. Okay. So here's another problem. Water flows through each of the discharge gates in the Hoover Dam at a rate of 200,000 cubic feet per second. What is that in cubic meters per hour? So we're going to go from cubic feet to cubic meters and seconds to hours. So we would need some information, and you could set that up, and you can see that you go from foot cubed to miles cubed. And you know miles cubed to meters cubed, and we know seconds to hours, so you can see that there's some cubed units in there and there's some not cubed units, and you just do the math. Whatever's on the top is what you multiply by, and whatever's on the bottom you divide by. You ignore the ones and you get an answer of 2.0 times 10 to the 7th meters cubed per second. So to review, you treat cubes and squares just like any other conversion factor. You just have to remember to cube or square the conversion number.